One. Hey guys, my name is Brett Ferguson, and I'm a graduated senior from the University of South Carolina. Welcome to the season finale of season 2. Can you guys believe that? We're already through two seasons of the podcast. I mean, whenever I was sitting here about a little over a year ago at this same exact spot in this same room with a different mic, we've upgraded. But I was sitting here and I just had this crazy idea. I was like, I want to make a change, and I want to have people around me to make that change with me and grow not just us as people, but also grow a community to where we can always have somebody by our side working with us and constantly looking for this personal development that everybody looks to achieve. So enough about that. Season finale, fantastic. We're pumped about it, but we have to get to the task at hand, which is episode 20. I have a very special treat for you guys today. So this has been in the works for probably a couple months now. It's been, we've been trying to get our schedules intact and just kind of work with each other and make sure that we have the best plausible solution to record. And what better way to cap off the season finale with somebody that we have been in conversation with, we've been talking to, he's invested in STS, and also too, he's a very exciting member of our community. Just a few things about this individual. So he grew up with this wild story. Nothing was ever linear for him. It was always ups and downs. Like we talk about on the podcast, growth is never linear, and he experienced that firsthand. On top of that, he, at 36 years old, had this realization. It was time to change. And we'll go into that in the podcast today. So without further ado, I'm sitting here with my man, Tommy Breedlove. Mr. Breedlove, how are you, man?
Brett, pumped up to be here, man. We're gonna bring the heat in the season finale. Finale 2, brother.
Exactly, man. Exactly. And that's all we can do. And for our community, we're all super excited to have you here today and just have a conversation and just talk about your life and talk about what you've been through and how you've overcome adversity and how we've led this life in order to impact others, truthfully, by living legendary TM. So Tommy, to start
more
off
on that to come, right? More on that to come.
Way more of that to come, Tommy, so let's start this off. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us kind of like your path through life from, Tommy was born X, Y, and Z, and just up until you are now.
Yeah, brother. So I am from the south side of Atlanta, Georgia. Grew up right near the airport. Good, solid, blue-collar, hardworking folks in that part of the world. My dad was a Delta mechanic. My mom worked in courthouses all along South Atlanta and even into Atlanta. Nobody in my family had ever graduated college, believe it or not. I was destined to be the first one, but that came with some bumps and bruises along the way.
Sure.
And especially at home and somewhat on the street, I grew up in and around a lot of violence, a lot of abuse, especially inside the home. And the worst thing that happened to me, and instead of being the first one to go to college, I had a full ride to the University of Georgia. I had half a ride to the University of Miami down in Florida and a bunch of other schools. The worst thing happens to you when you grow up in and around violence is you become what you hate.
Yep.
And so at 18 years old, through a lot of subtleties, a lot of hanging with the wrong people, had certain crowds that I would hang with at school and then certain crowds away from school. And I became that thing that I hated. I became the violence. And at 18 years old, I committed a violent crime. And instead of going to Georgia, I ended up looking at 7 years in prison for a violent crime. Luckily, by the grace of God and it being a first offense, it was dropped down to 2 heavy misdemeanors. And so I was sentenced to 2 years with 1 year suspended and spent my 19th birthday incarcerated as opposed to going to college and was so spent my 19th birthday in a cage, unfortunately. And so fast forward from there, it was my first opportunity to dust myself off. Amazingly enough, one of my first true male mentors appeared in my life in jail. And it was a 45-year-old, very fit African-American gentleman. And that's very unusual because things are very clicked along racial lines in the system. And for him to step across those racial lines and see something to me as an 18-year-old skinny white kid in a very tough place was really special of him to do that. And he mentored me. He loved me even when I couldn't love me. And he basically, him and another sheriff said, look, you're not going to get in this revolving door system as a young man. We see potential in you. And so from mentorship to friendship to accountability, He was awesome. And so when I got out, I eliminated a lot of the friends in my life that I had before. Went to work for a nuclear waste container factory during the day as a
Okay.
machine operator and putting myself through community college at night. Did that for 2 years, and that was brutal work, brother. I mean, I was making $6 an hour, lifting 80-pound canisters up and down on this giant industrial saw every day, and ended up with a hernia operation, a back operation, significant injuries, making $6 an hour as a result. I was extremely poor at the time. I had to pawn my car twice in order for it to in order to pay for repairs so that I could get to work and go to community college at night. But from community college, I ended up applying to the University of Georgia, ended up back there, ended up graduating with a business and accounting degree. And from there was hired at Deloitte and Touche. And at the time was one of the largest financial consulting firms in the world. So I literally went from jail to a nuclear waste container factory to community college to graduating University of Georgia in 3 years, which was
Wow.
a pretty big accomplishment for my family and me, especially being the first one to graduate college. And so from a jail cell to one of the largest financial consulting and public accounting firms in the world, I think it is the largest now. And so fast forward, give you a little bit quicker segment in a life. Fast forward to 36 years old. I was that guy who was going to outwork you, outcompete you, out-tough you. I was going to work harder, work smarter, work efficient. And at 36 years old, I was a junior partner. I'd left Deloitte. I'd been recruited out of multiple other firms, but found myself in a very large firm in the Southeast United States. I was a principal, which is code for junior partner. Big office, fancy cufflinks, nice watch, fancy car, girl on the arm. And he'd look at me and he said, that guy's got it all. You know, I mean, I had all the bells and whistles, power, prestige, money. Was rising really quickly up the ranks of the firm. And when the money, power, prestige didn't fill me up, I turned to all the darkness, man. And you name it, I was living the Wolf of Wall Street lifestyle because the money and the power and the title didn't fill me up anymore. So I turned to all the external things that we use to make ourselves feel important or to numb ourselves. And found myself at 36 years old, woke up in a ditch and somewhere in downtown Atlanta, didn't know where my car was. I was half dressed, been on a 3-day purge. I mean, not purge, a 3-day binge with a lot of my buddies and a lot of people running really hard, and found myself in a ditch and just said, you know what, enough is enough. I didn't know who I was, where I was going, or who, and I just didn't know anything. And I just decided to really transform my life. So at that moment, I made my mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional well-being my number one job. Went home, told my wife everything. I said, look, this is the guy you're married to. You know, I've been wearing all these masks, pretending to be something I'm not. And really, I was wearing the tough guy mask, important guy mask, ask for help mask, cool guy mask, you know, all those masks that we wear to fit in, you know, to feel important. And none of those were really me. And I wanted to go find out what me was. And so I went to this place in Tennessee for 7 days that literally cut me open for 4 days and put me back together for 3, helped me feel again, helped me see that I wasn't alone, and helped me get you know, through some of those wounds as a young man. Because really what it was that little boy who was picked on, who was harassed, who was abused as a young man, just wanted to be seen, heard, loved, and valued. And instead of seeking all that external validation, I turned internal. And that was my start into what ended up becoming the most important decision I've ever made. And from there, the most remarkable thing happened, Brett. I went from when I started investing into me, and I'm talking about my mental skills, my emotional skills, my spiritual skills, my physical skill. I mean, just made me my full-time job,
Mm.
and just became the true Tommy. To riff off Eminem a little bit, you know, with the real Tommy stand up, right? You know,
Right.
and I did. And when I did that, man, my relationship with my wife, my friendships, my network, my money, my career, all 10x'd. Within 3 years, I went from junior partner to senior partner to international practice leader to elected to the board of directors of a big firm in Atlanta. Most of the people on the board were 60. I was 39. My money 10x'd. My life, I went from working 80 hours a week down to 35, 40. We were more successful, but my friendships, my network, and my relationship with my wife is what really just went crazy. You know, all these negative forces and energy vampires disappeared from my life. And all of a sudden, you know, I became me, and I started attracting like-minded, ambitious, impact-driven people who were seeking, people who were putting it out there to be better than they were yesterday. And during that time, man, I'd never planned on leaving the financial consulting world because I was a senior partner, an owner, a board member. Financial freedom was assured. I mean, there was no doubt, you know, I was going to make more money than I knew what to do with. But all of these people, especially these alpha males, and lawyers and executives and corporate guys and bankers and entrepreneurs that were in my network started reaching out to me and said, look, man, you didn't give up your ambition or drive, but you seem to live with more peace of mind. You live with significance. You live with purpose. You're happy. You're peaceful. You and your wife are the best I've ever seen you. And you're just you, man. What magic pill? Tell me how you did to do that, you know? And I was like, there's no magic pill. It was a lot of hard work. And about the 10th or 15th guy that came to me for help, I was like, this is a career. This is a calling. This is what I was put on this earth to do during this season of my life. And that's when I became a business mindset and relationship coach for ambitious, driven people to help them in all things business mastery, money mastery, but more important, relationship mastery and mindset mastery. Because I like to look at the holistic person. And so since then, man, we've written the best-selling book, Legendary. It's a Wall Street Journal and USA Today. And it's the tools that I've taught, the tools that were taught me. It's a simple playbook on how to build a legendary life. I'm sure we'll go more into that later. But now I run retreats for men. I do a lot of public speaking to a universal audience around the country, do a lot of one-on-one coaching and also group coaching to just help people be better in all facets of their lives. Because it's no good to be successful in business if your wife and kids hate you. It's no to be good, you know, if your wife and kids love you, but you're poor. That's not how we want to live life. And so for me, it's about building a holistic approach to building a legendary lives. And I'm 7 years or 8 years into this journey, brother, and I've never been happier, never been more fulfilled. I think I get to wake up every day and work on myself for 2 hours so that I can serve others. And it's been the most fruitful and fulfilling thing I've ever done, man. So it's a pleasure to be here, Brett. Thank you for letting me share that.
Yeah, man. Wow. I mean, I bet everybody could in their rooms hear a pin drop whenever you're speaking there, man. I mean, it's something where that you hear that story and it's utter, just complete attention to you. And it's infectious because as a leader, that's what I look to do is eventually have that stature in order to be able, there could be a pin drop and somebody would look at it because it was so quiet in that room when you spoke. And that's what a lot of powerful individuals have. They have that ability to speak, and they also have that ability to give past experiences and lead. Tommy, I'm 22 years old. I don't have every answer by any means, shape, or form of the word. My thing, though, as a young leader and somebody that's looking to build this community and build it off of the same values that you appropriate in your everyday life with every individual that you deal with and every person that reads that book. Or anybody that stumbles across your social media or any platform that is Tommy Breedlove. It's that impactful way of just constantly building individuals in order to live that legendary life that you speak of. Now, I want to throw it back to what you said. You talked about currency, and me and Chris Tuff had the same conversation. Episode 18, season 1. I tell Chris I said hello.
He's my boy. You can see his book behind my back right. You see the Millennial Whisperer behind me.
Yep, exactly. I mean, you can't
put
that one down either. It's fantastic. Now, Chris spoke to me about currency, and he said people value currency in such an unauthentic way. Is that whenever you think of currency, you think of a dollar bill. But Chris told me, he was like, currency is so much more than that. He was like, everything that you do in life, you have a certain currency that's associated with that. I wanted to talk with you about the value of currency and how individuals my age and even all the way up to 80, 90, 10, 100 years old, how they can appropriate that in their lives in order to find what their currency is in certain values and also to appropriate in a way to where it has a longevity for them.
I'm going to put it to you in my terms, but I want to go back real quick, Brett, and then
Sure.
I'm going to answer this question in full. Chris Tuff is certainly more of the currency expert than I am, but I'm going to answer it in my voice, in my heart. But you said something really powerful. You said at 22 years old, you realize you don't have it all figured out in life. Well, I'm 46 years old, and 10 years, I am a craftsman at all things, self-improvement, self-development. I have coaches. I belong to masterminds. I'm not only a coach, but I am coached.
Right.
I read everything I can get my hands on. I travel the world. And the more I get coached, the more I travel, the more I coach, the more I read, the more I realize I don't know anything either. And that's what makes this life so great, is seeking truth, seeking inspiration, seeking love, seeking empathy and compassion and goodness. and living with significance, legacy, and purpose. And brother, I just wanted to affirm you that, hey man, I'm 46 years old and I do this every single day of my life. And the more I study, the more I read, the more I get coached by my mentors, the more I realize the little I know. And there's
Right.
so much to seek out there. Now, getting back to the point, so I wanted to affirm you with that. It takes some courage for us men to say we don't have it figured out.
Yep.
It takes courage for us men to ask for help, to put down the armor and cut back the onion and get off the white horse and say, look, boys, I don't have it all figured out. Because we as men, we crave connection. I'm tying this into currency. We crave respect and we crave connection, and we want to compete and conquer. And we just got to realize that as men. But we got to do that with integrity and core values. And we put out fake currencies. And so what I think currency is, I think it's where our God-given talents meet things that we love doing for others. So when I think of currencies, I think in false currencies would be me pretending to be something I'm not, me pretending to be important, me pretending to be powerful, me pretending that I have it all figured out. You know, there's masks that we wear, especially as men. But for me, currency is it's your God, which the place where your God-given talents meets what you love doing for others. And to me, Chris calls that currency. I call it my zone of brilliance. And I talk about that at length in my book, Legendary. And he's going to write a book, Chris Tuff, called Currencies, that he's going to take a deep dive into this.
Wow. Okay.
But there's something there's something that either as a young kid, boy or girl, or as a young boy or girl, or even now, that you're really good at doing. And if you don't know what that thing is, ask the 5 closest people to you, because they'll tell you what it is.
Yep.
And so that's your superpowers, your God-given talents. It's what you can do, and it's what people come to you for advice for. And whatever those powers are, pick the one that you like doing. And those 2 things, that's how you can go serve the world. It doesn't matter if you're 15, 22, 122. That's your currency and or zone of brilliance. And if you use that currency to make everybody's life you touch, it doesn't matter if you see them as in front of you in line or behind you in line. We're all walking this journey together. But if you use that currency to establish friendships or to establish your network or to help it in your business or your career or in your relationship with your significant other, your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whatever that might be, when you use those currencies in service, it is the most valuable thing you can do. And it'll be networking and growing and selling or building your business or wherever you're going in life. It'll be much easier because it's authentic. You're coming from a place of impact. It's what you enjoy doing. You're using your gifts and you're doing it in a place of service to either make your fellow humans, your business, or this world a better place. And to me, that's what currency is all about.
Wow. Yeah. And it, just like you said, it's all the it's all the intangibles as well. That's something that Chris really taught me. And then I took home, especially from that. I remember whenever Chris was talking about currency, it's the intangibles. It's like, you can't always feel, this sense of, I don't know it all. You can't always feel this sense of, okay, I know exactly what I'm going to do tomorrow. I know exactly what I want to do with my life, right? It's that sense is a currency within itself, because it gives you something to work on. That's
Totally.
been it for me was, whenever, like I said, I give this spiel almost every other episode, it feels like, but I was sitting here in my room. I was drowned in sorrow. I was really looking back the past 3 years of my college experience, and I was just really upset with the man I had become. I was really upset because I saw myself 4 years. I thought about myself senior year of high school, where I would be. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm nowhere close. And that kind of what not only shocked me into effect, but it also too kickstarted the brilliance of what I know I can do in my life. I'm not a rocket scientist. I'm not a biologist. I'm not this incredible strength and conditioning coach. I'm not any of that. But what I am is I'm Brett Ferguson. And I know the values that Brett Ferguson has close to his heart. It's always being happy. It's always making sure others are okay. I wrote in my book the other night, I wrote about my biggest flaw / my biggest, about my biggest approval. And also to the thing I want to appropriate so much in my life is that I have an issue of being a people pleaser, which there's advantages and there's disadvantages to that. What I found was, as an advantage, that means I'm always seeking to help others. It was something where I was like, you know what, if there's somebody in need, I'll give them the shirt off my back. That's always how I've been. That's the way I was raised. That's how my family's been. But then on the flip side of it, there's you spend a lot of time and energy on people that necessarily aren't reciprocating the same energy, and also too, they're not reciprocating the same values. They're not appropriating the same actions, and then you start being used as a tool rather than a friend. And that for me is so important, because I sit back and I want to ensure in myself that I am confident enough to where I can sit back and say, you know what, is this relationship helping me grow? Is this relationship coming to a point where I can better them as an individual? Are they closed off and will they not let me talk to them? Okay, maybe I give them some space for a second and I come back and I say, hey man, I'm just thinking about you. I love you. I want to make sure that you're doing okay. If there's anything I can do, let me help. Every leader that's been associated in my life, a man named Todd Lesher, who was my youth minister growing up, he still to this day, he could be a year before we talked, it could be 2 years before we talked, but he will still send that text message. Hey man, I was just thinking about you. Hope you're doing well. Let me know if you need anything. And that authentic relationship will always come back around. I truthfully believe that, because, whenever there's a cut in the fabric, it's always easy to sew it back up whenever you have intention to sew it back up. And that was so crucial in my life, where I realized that I was like, wow, there are certain values that I know that are great, but then there's also disadvantages to that as well. And making sure that you can sit down and personally, I write it out. Like I sat there and I was like, literally, I titled it My Biggest Flaw. I have it sitting right here. And I just talked and I just wrote like I did an Instagram post. I was just like, I'm just going to write. I'm just going to write until I can ease my mind and truthfully sit here and read it and be like, that's the representation. That's what's going on in your mind. That might not be at the forefront of all times, but that's what you truly believe. And I come back three days, a week, a month, a year, and come back and always look at this, because I know it's like, that's a reminder. I wanted to talk to you, as you deal with a lot of individuals and looking in self-improvement. How do you kind of combat this ideal of being a people pleaser and always looking to just help others, even though sometimes they aren't looking for help?
So is the question about people pleasing or people who are not really looking for help? Let me start with, let me say something about the people pleasing. And I love this. It's a great question. First of all, I appreciate your courage. Yeah. What we do when we open up and share like this, Brett, and your whole forum and your format here and your platform, you're giving people the gift of going second. And when especially us guys, and we're men's men, we like to compete, we like to win, we like to conquer, we love respect. But we also seek connection, and we also seek authentic relationships with our fellow men and women. And so when you open up and you're honest like that about your people pleasing, about how that can lead to resentment, and how it can lead to scorekeeping, and how your cup is not always filled when they won't receive it or you don't receive it back. And, our expectations of others are always the birthplace of resentments, right? Because we expect everybody to be like us, and they're not. But what you're doing, brother, is when you open up and you're honest about that, is you give, you're not alone in that. There's probably 1,000 people pleasers listening. Yep. And or some other issue, because we all got our insecurities and wounds. And it's interesting you say that's my biggest weakness, because I also see it as your biggest strength.
Right.
Anybody who wants to people please is about service. It's about service to others. As long as we're not doing it to feed our ego or self-esteem, as long as we're doing it to truly come of service and to actually help. But it's hard to do that because of who we are. It's hard not to score keep. And it's hard not to seek that validation in the work we do. And that's all about boundaries. And so some of my mentors and coaches help me with boundaries. Between my financial knowledge and all this craft I have of self-development, self-improvement, and all that's, people want to pick my brain, constantly. And this is what I do for a living. This is how I feed my family. It is my craft. It is what I sell to this world, and people value what they pay for. And so what I would say, I guess, I think I answered the first question is people pleasing is all about boundaries. And as long as we know who we are and we don't allow ourselves, we need to receive as much as we give as human beings. Yep. And I think for some of us, receiving help or receiving love or receiving advice is very difficult. I think it's just very, very difficult. So as long as you're balanced, brother, on what you give out to the world and what you receive in, and you've got to allow yourself to receive. So some of us, when somebody tells you love them, you're like, well, I love you. And that's true, but can you receive the love they just give to you? Yep. And to me, people pleasing, as long as you can figure out what hole you're trying to fill deep down in there, what validation are we receiving as a man or as a boy or as a husband or wife? a partner. That's what people pleasing is all about. Service is one thing. People pleasing is about a different thing. And it's about boundaries and saying no as well. And remember, one no is worth 1,000 yeses for a people pleaser. So it's just something we got to remember.
Exactly.
So for me, man, it's interesting. I'm in the pain or purpose business, whether I'm doing one-on-one coaching, running a mastermind, or doing a group retreat somewhere. What I like to do to get people to open up is just to share my story, to share my failures, to share my triumphs, to share my tragedies, to share what it looked like on this side. By doing the work that I've done today, this is what I've experienced in my life, from love to happiness, from peace of mind to fulfillment to professional and monetary success. This is what it looked like. Here's what it looked like before. And I think what people are seeking right now is what you're doing, Brett, what I'm doing is we're being real, we're being honest, we're being vulnerable, we're being open, and we're doing it with courage. We're not emotionally vomiting on people, but we're doing it with courage, and we're giving people the gift of going second. And I think when we do that in closed settings or over a podcast or me in front of 1,000 people on a stage or in a book or whatever it might be, people appreciate it. They love it. And our tribe will come around to us. And I think if we show them the way, we can never say, hey, get a coach. Hey, join a mastermind, find a mentor, read this book. But if we just lead by example, we just keep putting the goodness out there, the inspiration out there, but they see us also doing the work. I want to hang around people that I know are working a little bit each day to be better than they were yesterday in all facets of their life. They're not just about the fancy titles and the money. And I think those are important. Anybody that says money's not important, run from them. They're broke.
Yep.
Money's important, but it's also a magnifying glass. Emotional stability is important. Mental stability, having a loving, caring relationship with your family and friends is important. Having unconditional love and self-respect for yourself is important. Becoming the master of your mindset. You know, what I call the Tommy go round, that voice inside your head that says you're not good enough. And what if they figure out you don't know what you're doing? Conquering that demon. So it's about living a holistic, and that's the people I want to surround myself. And that's the message that I preach. And I think to get people to want to help, you just show them the way. You be the light that you want to see in the world. That's what Gandhi said. Be the person, be the change you want to see in the world. And when guys like you and I step up, the people who are ready to receive the message is there, and we are the message. When people are ready, they'll find us and they'll say, I want to be better here. And what's amazing to me is a lot of people come to me when they're on the trauma table. They either had a big career change, they've had an integrity breach, they've done something they regret, or they made a decision they wish they hadn't to. But I'm finding now that people are changing. I'm finding that people are coming to me. They're just saying, hey, this part of my life's going good. I would just like my relationship with my girl to be a little bit better. I would like my relationship with my kids to be a little bit better. I want my spiritual fortress, my mental fortress, my mindset. I want to tweak those a little bit. I want to be more present during the day. I don't want to constantly be thinking about the future or the past. I want to be where my feet are. Help me with that. Or I want to be better in business and money. I want to be more financially confident. Help me with that. I'm finding more and more people in our tribe are looking for connection. They're looking to be better, and they're looking for someone like us to guide them through that transition. And so I think that's what we do to get people to open up is we give the gift of going second, and we show them the way by the work that we do.
Yeah. And I think, that automatically translates with authentic. That just resonates with me. Authenticity is extremely important in my life because I know what it's like when I wasn't authentic.
Amen, brother.
Me
too.
I mean, right. And it's like, I knew what that feeling was whenever I wasn't authentic. And that was a rut. And like, it was just like that ditch metaphorically that you were in, and also physically. But it's that ditch that you just feel like you can never claw yourself out of, but you're not giving yourself a ladder. You're not giving yourself the tools in order to get out of that ditch because you just believe one day it's going to be fixed and you'll be okay. That was me. I thought, I have this internship. It's going well. Since I really started focusing on myself, I got promoted from intern to full-time. And then now I just got another job promotion as an inside sales representative where I'll be, I believe I'm the youngest in company history. And
that's amazing.
It was that, like, seeing that representation of, okay, yeah, I didn't finish college yet, but would I be in the position I am now if I did not decide to make that change? I don't even care because I did make that change. And that's where it's so authentic to me, to where I'm just so excited to wake up every day. I mean, I'm sitting there in the office and I see Luke Kuechly just walk through the door. I'm kind of staring. I'm like, did everybody else see that? Like, and it's that beautiful, just metaphoric way of life, just showing you and be like, hey, you know what? This might not give you monetary value. job does, but Luke Kuechly coming in might not give you monetary value. You might not even get a conversation with him, but you still get that experience. And
Totally.
that's how I want to live my life, is through these experiences, to be able to have individuals and sit down and talk with guys like you. So guys, I learned so much from each episode. Each and every episode, I become just a little bit better of a speaker, just a little bit better of a man, just a little bit better mentally and physically. I mean, I'm humbled by the people that want to come on and talk to me. So why not? Why can't I be better? Like, why am I just appropriating this to others? Like, how can I get better? You listen from episode 1 all the way now until episode 20 of season 2. There's a totally different guy behind the mic. He's not as transparent. He's not as vibrant. He's drowning in sorrows in episode 1. But then as you see this thing progress, it's beautiful, because I listen back and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I remember exactly what I was thinking back then. And then now you see it on the flip side. It's like, I know exactly what I'm thinking about presently. And what you said about living presently is so important, because that's something that's really made it important for me. Put away the phone, put away everything that is a distractant. Realize where you are, realize the emotions that you have, and always try to reciprocate. And that was something for me where it's like, this is a never enough. That's my mentality. That's always been my mentality, is like, never enough, do better, never enough, do better. But I believe acting present allows you to get that voice out of your head, and just in that moment, just realize what emotions are going through your head, realize the people that you're meeting, realize the conversations that you're having, and realize too that all this life is a process. Everything has to work in a process based, and you are a constant project that's being worked on. I wanted to just, you obviously wrote a book, and I always use this metaphor that life is like you are the author and you have the pen and paper. You're writing it every single day. What do you want to be on that paper? What is it like from you in a contextual standpoint of, like, you knew that you were the author writing your book, 18 years old and in a jail cell before you go off to college. And then now you're sitting here with, like you said, a USA Today. It's insane and it's crazy. But whenever you were thinking throughout this process, how did you know that you were going to write your book in your life? And then on top of it, what inspired you to write a book?
Yeah, and I will definitely answer those. I want to say something earlier that you talked about,
Sure.
and from episode 1 to episode 20, that the journey you take, it's like climbing a mountain. And I hope this analogy resonates with your listenership.
Yeah.
When you start this work, I'm talking about the deep work, the inner work. We work every day to strengthen our physical muscles, those of us who want to stay in shape and don't atrophy. So we go to the gym every day for 30 minutes to an hour to look and feel better than we are.
Yep.
For those of us who do the deep work, and I'm talking working on those mental muscles, those emotional muscles, the spiritual muscles, and develop the craft of being a holistic, better human being, you're literally climbing a mountain, and your view absolutely changes. How you view the world, how you see the world, how you see opportunities, how you see love, how you see goodness, how you see impact and innovation. And you become more confident, you become better, you become a person of integrity. You literally start speaking a language, and this is going to sound a little bit out there. Your energy changes. And because you speak a different language and your energy changes, the opportunities that I call it, like attracts like, love attracts love, light attracts light. The opportunities that come your way, the network connections that come your way, the business opportunities that come your way, the friendships, those negative influences that never started climbing the mountain, that are still standing on the ground and they can't see they can't even really communicate. You can still hear their language, but they can't hear your language because you're talking totally differently. You're coming from a different wavelength. And the more you climb that mountain, and you started at 21, 22, I started at 36. I'm 10 years into this journey, but the view gets better and better. The opportunities get more and more. The friendships get deeper and deeper. The love gets higher and higher, and the personal and business and financial success and it's because of what we're attracting into our life, because we're living our life authentically, but we're doing the hard, deep work every single day. I spend about an hour or two on me every single day so that I can go serve my communities, my clients, my family, my friends, my audiences, who are people reading my book, whatever. And that's what you're doing, man. And so I had to go on that because that's what you were explaining, is you started climbing the mountain and things are happening in your life that you can't explain, but that's hope, that's faith, that's energy. And that is love attracting love and light attracting light. And those negative forces, they don't go away. You just don't hear them and give them much attention anymore. So little bit about my book. And so I never planned on writing a book. And one of my good friends and a fellow mastermind member, I pay to be in a men's mastermind, he goes, "This story is so powerful. You need to share it to the world. Write a book." And so the book took me about 3 years, but it never felt pure. It never felt whole. It never felt like me. And perfectionism got in the way, and fear got in the way. And we were so much time into it. The publishers were getting impatient. The consultants were getting impatient. I literally hated the book. I didn't like anything about it because it didn't feel like it had blood or soul, and it didn't feel like me, and it felt like it was being forced. And so it was written and rewritten and rewritten. And I'm not kidding. I hope you don't mind me sharing this because it's going to sound kind of bad.
Not at all.
We were literally a month and a half away from the final deadline. The publisher's like, "Look, man, if we're going to write this book, we're going to write it now." And I still hated it. And then my wife was in Chicago traveling on business, and I might or might not have had a little too much bourbon one night because I had just gotten my final draft and I hated it. And so, I was sipping on some bourbon, looking at it, and, really feeling it. And all of a sudden, I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was God, a muse, all of the above, but it literally hit me. Write the book that you needed when you were 36, when you were going through this transition, or 22. Write that book. Write the book that you've coached countless men and women, and you've seen it change their life. And literally, I'm not kidding you, after 2 years and 7 or 8 months and a little bit of bourbon and a whole lot of crying, I'd already written a Jerry Maguire email telling everybody to stop writing. We're done, blah, blah, blah. And then it came to me, literally this outline of the right book, the book that became legendary, that's now a USA Today and Wall Street best-selling book. It's like, write the book that changed your life. Tell the stories and the simple tools. Tell what you coach. Tell who you are. Tell what you've been through. Tell the stories of others. There's 10 or 11 other stories of inspirational people. Simple tools and tactics to building and living a legendary life. And it was as if the outline just hit me. Teach them everyone has purpose. Help people find their purpose. Help people define their personal mission statement. Help people reconquer their time. Help people to become more financially confident, build a financial mindset to build toward financial freedom. Help them cultivate unconditional love and self-respect and confidence for themselves. Help them master their mindset. Help them to do deeper, more intimate relationships with their friends and significant others. Help them live the holistic life of purpose, significance, while building a legacy. And it hit me that night, and I wrote it within 2 months because it was the book that was always meant. It was as if God was flowing through me, brother. I mean, I just wrote it 2 years and 8 months. It was a terrible book. And then it became this epic piece of art. For a recovering perfectionist, it's hard for me to say this, that literally I'm so proud of and so thankful for. And to me, the reason I picked in Legendary, the title didn't come to the very end. We had other titles that were ridiculously terrible. And the reason we picked the word legendary for this book is because legendary is something that society gives to us, our culture gives to us, our peers give to us, our family gives to us, the people we serve give to us. If we start calling ourselves legendary, Brett, everybody's going to laugh us out of the room. We're not legendary. That's
Right.
something that's given to us. And for me, I've written a simple playbook with great stories and simple, executable. It's a fun, fast read for people to help build and live a legendary life so that we can leave this planet and the people we touch better than we found them. Because no one's going to read our resume. No one's going to care how fancy of a house or what car we drove. They're going to remember what we did, how we did it, who we served, and what impact we made. And to me, that's what this book, Legendary, is all about. And I am just super, super thankful of its commercial success.
Yeah, man. I mean, and it's one of those things. I bet it's just it kind of hits you. I can't imagine that day it was released and you started getting this outflow of emotion from so many people. I can't imagine what that felt like, because in smaller scale, that's been honestly what I have seen from STS. It's been this small snippet of, hey, Brett, I'm in the U.S. Army right now. We're currently having a lot of issues. Like, it's been tough. Like, it's been hard. I've been trying to work through it. Your podcast has really helped me keep a good mindset. I mean, these are messages that I received, and it was just like, this worked. Like, oh my gosh, this worked. Like, this crazy idea I had to tell my story, it worked. And that's what I saw immediately from you, was just that authentic, it worked. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. Like, I worked so hard. I know I put in the work. I know I put in the work ethic. I know I gave it time. I know I did this. I know I did that. But then finally when it happens, it's just like, oh my gosh, that worked. And for me, it's always that appeal to the emotion at the climax. For So it's whenever you hit that pinnacle and it's like, oh my gosh, I know what this feeling is. Like it's just this authentic joy and happiness and this pure moment of just evanescence where it's just quiet and calm and peaceful. And but for me, it's always that attainable goal. It's always that one thing, unattainable goal. It's always that pursuit of excellence. That is what I look to chase after, because my personal self, I realize that there's downfalls to constantly chasing excellence. You try to be a perfectionist in everything that you do, just like you said, you're recovering perfectionist. You constantly just try and you find yourself unhappy because you're living a life that's not for you. You're living a life that's not providing you this sense of happiness. You're only looking to do things to further yourself and further your monetary value or further X, Y, and Z. But at the end of the day, if you don't understand yourself holistically, none of that other stuff will matter. And that was where, whenever I finally, 22 years old, I have this incredible job. I love the people I work with. I have these unbelievable people that walk in every day, and I'm just like, how am I here? who just sat me here randomly, But then I take a step back and I'm like, you know what, man? Like, you earned every bit of this, but guess what? It's like, just like the analogy of that mountain that you said, you always got to keep climbing. You always got to keep climbing, because the second you stop, you're losing time, and you're losing that effort to win will to be great. I wanted to bounce back to the conversation that you had about the different elevation and different wavelength of conversation and authentic relationships with people. When you said that impacted me immediately, because I immediately thought about the friends that I haven't talked to in a little bit, the friends that kind of not push them by the wayside, but really just don't understand what I'm trying to do now and what I'm trying to do for my life. What has it been the best way? Obviously you said let them hear your story and be authentic with them and let them share and come into your life seeking this will and this joy. What has been a way for you to constantly be a leader and be an effective leader, 1, in strategizing, 2, in emotions, and then 3, with passion?
So let's talk about the friends. Certain people are in their journey where they are.
Yep.
And I am dogmatic about who I spend my time with. And it doesn't mean I don't like them, and it certainly doesn't mean I don't love them. I want the best for them. I want them to be happy, fulfilled, successful, and find joy in their life. They've got to choose to do that. I can share my story. I can lead them to the water. I can give them the tools that help me. But if they're not ready, they're not ready. And I am ridiculously dogmatic and uncompromising about hanging out with people that are happy, who are doing the work that you're talking about, who are striving for excellence, who get up to make an impact in this world on themselves and others, who believe the glass is half full and half empty. And I have zero tolerance for apathy, entitlement, judgment, and all of those things. I just don't have time for cynicism. There's too much of that in the world already. And we are the 5 people we surround ourselves with. And if you look around and find that the people you're hanging around are angry, they're judgmental, they're envious, they're a victim, it's somebody else's fault, they're unhappy, and they're constantly wanting to bring others down and talk about other people, and they're just judging and angry and mad. If you hang around with a lot of people like that, guess what you are? You're the same. And it goes back to like attracts like. That doesn't mean you don't love them. It doesn't mean you don't want the best for them. But right now, you don't need energy vampires around you.
Yep.
And so that's the first thing I would say. And so tactically, how I do that is, over time, I stop attending things with them and I stop inviting them to things with me. That's grace. It's a thing over time. It's not I don't tell them this. I don't show them this. I just, through my actions, I stop hanging out with them. And I have this saying that I talk about in my book, Legendary. When it comes to human beings, including our family, if they're not a hell yes, it's a no. And what I mean by that is, instantly whether or not you want to spend time with this person. Yesterday, I spent all day at the lake with Chris Tuff. We talked about him at length. He is the biggest hell yes in my life outside of my wife. He is all about positivity, impact. How can I be better? Who can I serve? And he just wants to make this world a better place. He is an absolute hell yes for me. And he elevates my game emotionally, mentally, professionally. That's the people I want around me, men and women. And so people are where they are in their journey. and they are where they are and what they can receive and what they can hear. And Brett, just, I'm telling you, the further you go along in this journey, you're going to have to leave a lot of people behind, and you've got to be super dogmatic and super okay with that, because there's only so much time, there's only so much energy, and you want to put your time and energy toward people who are doing the same things you are. Doesn't mean you don't love them, doesn't mean you don't care about them. It just means you got to let them go. So I have this saying, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. I'll say this too as well. How do you can't do anything for anyone else. And we like to think we're in control, and we like to think perfectionism exists. The only thing we're in control of is our actions, choices, attitudes, and mindset. That's it. Everything else can be taken away from you in a moment. And so if we're constantly working on our attitude, our actions, our choices, our mindset, we're going to be fine. And we're going to start attracting like attracts like, and you'll start attracting the same type of people in your life. You're probably already seeing it.
Yep.
But when those friends show back up and say, hey, man, if they're truly willing to do the work, they're like, hey, man, I love what you're doing, what you stand for. I'm unhappy and I need help. That's when you help. But if they're not asking for your help, they're not ready for it.
Yep.
And I'll say this to everyone listening too. Everybody, we're not alone in our fears, our insecurities, our wounds, our mistakes. We've got to cut through that nonsense and own that. We're not, and Brett, you've shared your story. I've shared my story. We've all got a story. We've all got fears. We've all got wounds. You're not alone. That's the first thing I want to say is you're not alone, and you're not a freak. You're not the only person that feels the way you feel. I promise you, there's a million others just like you. Here's where the rubber hits the road though. If you're unhappy, if you're depressed, if you're angry, you feel like you're missing something, you're not happy with your job, you're not happy with your girlfriend, or there's just a feeling of uneasy or unfulfillment in your life, I want you to go find the closest mirror and look in it. And that's the problem. Okay, so that's hard, but it's true. It's nobody else's fault. You got to do you, and you have to choose to start doing a little bit of work every day to be better in that portion of your life that you're missing. Is it your relationship? Is it your happiness? Is it your career? Is it your money? Is it not being present? Is it you're afraid? Look in the mirror, say that I'm not alone, and now what are you going to do today to be a little bit better? Are you going to read a book about the topic? Are you going to listen to a podcast? Are you going to go on YouTube and examine it? Or are you going to take some big steps? Are you going to hire a coach? Are you going to join a mastermind? Are you going to join a church group? Are you going to take real action? Or are you going to start a gratitude journal? Are you going to start meditating? Are you going to start what are the 1 million things that you can do just to be a little bit better than you were yesterday? And in 365 days from now, whatever issue you're facing, it will be exponentially better if you just do a little bit every single day. It's like compound interest, man.
Yep.
Money earns money, which earns money. Same thing with life, same things with love, same things with this self-work. It's like going to the gym. You start working out one day, you're not in shape. 30 days from now, you look a little different. 365 days from now, you look really different. Same thing goes with our minds, hearts, relationship, money, business, careers, etc. And so I'm not being hard, but your friends have to choose to participate in their own rescue.
Mm-hmm.
You can't save them. They have to save themselves. There's a personal accountability to it, and there's work to be done, and nothing good in life comes for something that's easy.
Yep.
And so that's the truth. And so for me, it sounds cold. It's not cold. It doesn't mean I don't love them. I don't need jealous people. I don't need judgmental people. I don't need negative people. I don't need people who make fun of me or make fun of my craft. I need people who love and support me, but I also need people who will kick me in the face when I get out of my zone of brilliance and my integrity. And so that's what I'm looking to surround myself with. So the truth is, Brett, they've got to be ready and willing to do the work, and they've got to ask for help. And when they do that, I'm all in.
And that's so true. I can give it just a living testament just in one part of my brother had a crazy story. 3 weeks before his wedding, his fiance called it off, and Robin had to do a lot of soul searching. And Robin came to me one day, as you know, I live my life for sports and exercise, and also too just elevating this human experience. And my brother came to me one day and he said, "Brett, I'm tired of the way I look. I'm taking control of myself. Help me with working out." He came to me with that simple phrase, and it changed completely our relationship. We are more open. We're more honest with each other. We don't take things so personally. We give them actual tactical steps, each other too. He says, "Hey, Brett, I see you doing this. I think we could do this. Hey, man, I see this happening." Or likewise, "Hey, man, this is what you could be doing. This is what you could be managing your time with better." And working in that relationship, me and my brother's relationship over the past year, ever since this whole debacle happened with his ex-fiance, I don't think we've ever been closer. And it's been every relationship like that. Like, just like you said, somebody comes to you and asks for help. And if they're authentic when they say that, then there's a genuine relationship that comes from it. That's just a realistic answer from me and my brother. Like, and my brother can come on and attest to the same thing. He'll tell you the same thing. Our relationship has never been better. And it's because we just started investing into each other and started investing in more to ourselves, and also building ourselves personally and not living for others, because we both grew up as people pleasers. And we said, we got to live for ourselves and do what we do and impact others by what we do and help others and give, like you said, something that I immediately came to my mind. It's like, you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. You teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. And that statement is so, so crucial to me, because it's like, if I could teach myself the crafts, the ways, the emotions, the intellectual thinking, the conflict resolution, if I can teach myself all that, I can eat for the rest of my life. And that's so important to me, because it's been this journey. At 22 years old, you don't hear a lot of kids my age talking about what we're talking about. And that's where I want to set the precedent of, it's okay to have this conversation now. Like, you're dealing with the same things. You can't be told that your problem isn't big enough. You can't be told that your struggles aren't important enough. You can tell it now. And with us, you can be surrounded by a group of individuals that is looking to better yourself, no matter what age you are. Even if it's, a lot of people, well, I don't listen to, for example, I don't listen to Ryan Mickler's podcast because he is around 40 something years old. I can't relate with him. Well, okay. How about this? How about you relate with a 22-year-old? Let's see if that works. And
Right.
that's my thing, where it's like, personally, I don't see that. I listen to everybody, every age range, because that's experiences, that's emotion, that's
Wisdom.
intellect, that's wisdom, just like you said. And that's, for me, I appropriate that. And I hopefully, as an introductory to what we do here at STS, we can start finding those values with people to where they find more information. They find, they find impactful leaders. They find these emotional minds. They give themselves a holistic standpoint to look at ourselves internally, externally, in our relationships with others. And
I also believe that every single person you meet has something to teach you.
absolutely.
It doesn't matter. Like, even when I had small children around me yesterday, they taught me the gift of joy, the gift of being totally present, the gift of laughter, the gift of not taking things too seriously. Because we as adults, we take things very seriously. We lose the joy and the laughter sometimes. And just listening and watching them, how much I was being taught about the simplicity of that beauty of joy and laughter and being present. And then it's interesting, I'm 46 and I coach for a living. I speak for a living. I write for a living. My coach right now, my current coach that I'm working with, that I pay a lot of money to, is 36. He's 10 years younger than me, but he is world class at his craft.
Right.
And I don't let that 10-year age difference get in my way, because, again, I believe every single human being, if they know it, can teach us something. It goes back to that currencies we talk about. So I don't care if you're 18 or 88. There is something that comes with age and wisdom comes with screwing up.
Yep.
And the older we get, we just have screwed up more. And that's where that wisdom comes from.
Yep.
But there's a lot of things that young folks can teach older folks and vice versa. So I would encourage everyone to be a little bit, regardless of their age and what technology they speak, this gift of humanity, what it means to be a human, to find connection with others, to be seen, heard, loved, free, and valued. That's a human need that all of us have. And that's what brings us all together, regardless of race, where we're from, geography. It's all of our basic needs: to be seen, heard, loved, valued, free, and, to be relevant, and to love and to enjoy this life, this very, very, very brutally short life we lived. That's a universal message. So you're selling yourself short if you think that you can't relate to someone because of their age, because I guarantee you there's some nuggets of wisdom and love and grace in there regardless.
And it's happened every time for me. Somewhere, I like, immediately whenever I started on this journey, I started listening to older gentlemen that had the same values that I had and lived the life I wanted to lead. That was immediately what I turned to. I turned to jokesters. Obviously, the biggest podcast on the planet, Joe Rogan. I listen to that guy. He's hilarious. He's crazy. He's this, but he also gives these nuggets of wisdom that'll allow you to just take a step back and really take approach to your life, physically, emotionally, mentally. And then like I said, Ryan Mickler, David Goggins, Jocko Willink, all those men all taught me so much. Jocko Willink, discipline, straight up discipline and consistency. You talk to a more stoic, more powerful individual, but he also too will take a step back and tell you about his emotions, what he felt during that time.
Yeah.
And that is everything to me, because I see those men and I'm like, wow, I know that's the life I want to lead. Let me see the values that they're appropriating. Let me see what they're talking about on a day-to-day basis. So Tommy, today has been incredible. I really appreciate everything that you've done and coming on the podcast. I've loved this conversation. I think we hit a lot of points that hopefully a lot of individuals my age, all the way up to 100 years old or even below that, they can take from this and truly live this holistic, passionate life that we're discussing. So as we wrap up today, I wanted just to give you an opportunity to talk about Legendary and kind of give your spiel about that. Also to any connection points where we can see you, learn more about you. And then going forward from there, anything else you'd like to add?
Let me start with this. If you're listening to this, you're clearly seeking something, because Brett's putting a lot of energy out there. He's putting a lot of love out there. He's putting a lot of vulnerability out there. Take this time to participate in your own rescue. And I love that saying. I used to be a really extreme whitewater guy. And I remember going down the Gauley in West Virginia, which is five plus rated rapids, which is river speak for super dangerous and super difficult. And he literally says, if you don't participate in your own rescue, there is a significant risk of drowning if you fall out of this boat. And it was significant because the amount of water, the speed, the things underneath it, and the boat being able to get to. And what he meant to that is turn over, put your feet up, look for the rope. If you can't find the rope, you can't get to the boat, look what's around you and do your best to get to safety. You must participate in your own rescue because we as a boat and we as guides might not get to you. That's the best analogy I've ever heard for life. You have to choose to lean in and do the work, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, in business. You've got to show up. You just mentioned a bunch of great men who are doing the work. Their lives weren't easy. Their lives weren't given to them. They just got up every day and worked a little bit better, a little bit harder to be than they were yesterday. Happiness is a journey. Joy is a journey. Love's a journey. A great relationship with a partner. There is nothing more valuable in life than that love between two people. But it's all work. And you've got to show up and do the work. And with less than an hour a day, you can really compound your life into something magnificent during your short time here. So I'm going to say participate in your own rescue. Legendary can be found at every bookstore known to man. Pick your flavor, whether it's online, it's in Nook, Audible, ebook, it's in Barnes & Noble, Amazon, all your local boutique stores. It's everywhere. The Audible will be out by the time this podcast is released. Chances are the Audible will be out there. So if you like my voice, this Southern voice that's a little bit nasally right now because I'm struggling with pollen. If you like this voice, I'm going to read it to you, but it's everywhere. And I'll offer this too, because this is an interesting time as we record this, because we're right at some say the beginning, I think the end of this COVID-19 thing. I know COVID's not going anywhere, but we're going to choose to live our lives and participate and do our best to overcome this thing. But because of that, if you go to TommyBreedlove.com/gifts, that's GIFTS, TommyBreedlove.com/gifts. I'll give you my purpose statement. It's a one-page exercise on how to find your purpose. I'll give you mine in the formula. I'll also give you the financial confidence and financial freedom chapter of my book, the mastering your mindset chapter of my book, and a little bit more in depth of my story, the preface and the foreword that was written by Chris Tuff, who we talked about a lot. So you can get the financial confidence and freedom chapters, help you build that mindset, help you get some tools to be better financially. We'll give you the master your mindset chapters, help you conquer that voice inside your head that says you're afraid or not good enough, as well as the other chapters. And there's a whole bunch of other free goodies in there. You can follow me anywhere at Tommy Breedlove, social media, LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm everywhere now. We've really upped our social efforts. Hopefully you'll get to see me on a stage near you. But Legendary is a great book. It's a Wall Street Journal and USA Today bestseller. And it covers everything from finding and discovering your purpose, to rediscovering your zone of brilliance, to conquering your time, to building your network, to building intimate relationships, becoming financially free, mastering your mindset, developing intimate relationships. It's simple stories, simple tools. It's a fun, easy, fast read. The feedback's been unbelievable. We actually just got a critic feedback, and it came back really, really good. And we're super thankful and humbled for that. So it's simple, it's easy, it's fun, it's executable. And I really do believe if you do small things in there, just pick one, literally pick one thing and do it for a year, your life will be exponentially. And hopefully when you're done, you'll be known as a legend, man. So that's a little bit about Legendary. I'm super proud of it and thankful to be here, Brett. So thank you for having me, man.
Tommy, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate your time today. So guys, as we wrap up episode 20, season finale, I think that was an incredible one. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we had it recording it. As we kind of sign off today, I do something that Tommy alluded to earlier, and that is read our mission statement. And our mission statement is as follows. This group is designed to be a constant, open communication between members to deal with issues that arise in everyday life. Whether they be fitness goals, personal goals, or life struggles, this podcast is designed to uplift all those involved. Dulcius ex Asferis. Thank you guys so much.